Welcome to Storytime, everybody. We are back reading from the Intergalactic Audacity of Becky Blueshift, my new middle grade novel. And we are on episode 10, which is awesome. So you'll remember that they've just been captured by the very cowardly blue people who ride the lizards, and they're being taken to the castle. So let's go ahead and take off and get right into this. Episode 10, Monarch-Monarch the Great. Becky had only seen one castle in real life before, and it looked nothing like this. Pale yellow stones, rough-hewn and unevenly stacked, caught the light of waning afternoon. Walls reached up over 10 meters, but they seemed to have been placed with little care or skill, jutting at strange angles and then pulled back in their original direction. Stones appeared thrown into rows by people who cared little about the aesthetic of the final product. Everything about the palace seemed haphazard and thoughtless. Knights in pink and green armor pushed Becky, Edison, and Ben on the last leg of their forced march toward the main gate of the crooked castle. One of the large lizards strode alongside with its rider, smelling of sewer water and body odor. Becky couldn't tell if the stench came from the reptile or the knight. "I'm tired of walking," Ben whined, stepping in a pile of lizard poop and grimacing. "Ah, gross!" "I think we're here, Ben, so just stay quiet," Becky said. Edison jogged up beside her and glanced at their mounted escorts. They speak English, so they had to have had some contact with the fleet. One of them said something about visitors fighting with this Monarch guy they keep talking about. Could it have been a Centauri exploratory crew or something? I was thinking the same thing. They might have fuel. If fleet ships have been here before, it's a good bet there's a source of isotope petrol. Ben jumped on one foot while scraping his dung-covered boot with a small rock. "Why do we sound so weird when we talk?" "It's the helium in the air," Edison answered. "Ada said there was helium present at greater quantities than normal. It's affecting how our vocal cords vibrate and produce sound." "Oh, like after Dad sucked on one of those balloons at the fair we went to last year on Freylig," Ben added. "Exactly." Becky looked from Edison to Ben to the 7 riders currently herding them toward the metal castle gate. "Stay close together. We don't know their culture or what they might do to us. Stay honed and ready to strike." "They seem pretty cowardly," Edison whispered. "Yeah, I noticed that too," Becky replied. "Let's just stay quiet for now and see what we can find out. Maybe there's a reason they're afraid of us. Well, I don't know. Or maybe they're just intimidated by how awesome I am," Ben grinned. "I doubt that's it." "So what's the plan?" Ben asked. "Give me a minute and I'll figure something out," Becky said. "Like I said, stay honed and ready to strike." Once again, she missed her mentors. Nitro Nobel normally would have been the one to say, "Stay honed and ready to strike." He always said that when they got into trouble. Once they heard those words, Becky never doubted they would make it out of any situation, no matter how dangerous. When the Nobels and Blueshifts stood side by side, no one could beat them. Nitro or Nyla would think of something, and Mom and Dad would execute the plan alongside them with precision every time. But neither Nitro, Nyla, Mom, or Dad were here. They were trapped somewhere between dimensions and wouldn't be coming to save anyone. It would be up to Becky, Edison, and Ben. The question remained whether or not the trio would be up to the task. Becky found her courage failing. Maybe Edison had been right. Maybe they should have just called for help. Maybe Peppercorn could have sent a ship before Nostrellus found the crashed Lovelace. Maybe Becky, Edison, and Ben never should have set out on this crazy adventure in the first place. Maybe. "Maybe never saved the day," Nitro had told Becky before she swam the gravity fields on Acrox. "There are no maybes in the present, and that's where your head needs to be. The past is gone. The future doesn't exist. Right now is all you have." "We're going to be fine," Becky said, nodding to Edison and Ben. They seemed to believe her. Suddenly, Becky believed too. The entourage halted at the main gate. Several of the lizards bent low and licked dirty water from puddles next to a wooden guard post. A sign hung crooked from the station, painted with jagged letters that read, "All hail Monarch-Monarch, the greatest leader in the universe and beyond, the great one of greatness."
"No one passes without giving the word,"
a woman in dirty pink armor shouted. At least Becky assumed it was a woman. It was hard to tell with everyone's voices elevated like they were.
"Show yourself,"
Captain Sebastian called from the back of his scaly steed. The woman removed her helmet, revealing bright orange hair running almost to her waist. She looked Earth-like enough, with 2 large oval eyes, a nose, and a mouth. But the bluish tint to her slimy skin indicated that she wasn't exactly human either. She carried what looked like a clipboard made of stone.
"State the given word,"
the woman yelped,
"and then state your business."
The head knight dismounted from his lizard creature and stepped over to Becky.
"We have prisoners trespassing on our kingdom's lands,"
he said, feminine voice vibrating the hairs of his orange beard.
"They are incredibly dangerous, and we request they be brought before Monarch-Monarch for judgment."
"Look," Becky said, "this is all a misunderstanding. We crashed and—"
"Silence, trespasser!"
the woman with the long hair shouted. "Do you guys have any isotope fuel by chance?" Edison said, stepping next to Becky. "If you do, we could be out of here and you'd never see us again."
"Silence, boy with tall hair!"
Sebastian said with a shove. Edison stumbled into Becky, but they kept each other from falling over.
"I no longer fear your wrath."
The woman smiled slightly and nodded to the tall, bearded knight.
"State the given word." "Monarch,"
the man stated.
"Correct."
"Monarch? Seriously?" Becky questioned. "Monarch is the password." "That's a stupid password," Ben added.
"Take them to Monarch-Monarch,"
the woman barked. A wooden spear shaft pressed against Becky's back, forcing her and Edison forward. Rusted chains hung from above the gate and drew tight, pulling the barricade up with screeching gears. The knights led their prisoners into a courtyard filled with bushels of yellow grass stacked against the walls. Old wooden shops and small chicken-like birds scurrying around in the mud. In such a dry environment, Becky wondered where the moisture in the courtyard had come from. The smell of uncleaned bathroom that permeated the area informed her conclusion. Blue and purple people stood around the square as well, some tossing bales of grass into a wagon, others leaning against the uneven castle walls, eyes vacant and thoughtless. No one appeared happy to be here, and Becky understood why. "Is it just me, or does everybody look bored?" Edison asked in a whisper. Becky caught sight of an overweight man in a leather apron pushing a cart full of vegetables. Large boils covered his greasy face like overgrown pimples. He screamed at a smaller man to get out of his way and kicked an elderly woman as she stepped out of a bread shop. The frail matron tripped and fell, dropping a basket of bread into a stagnant pool of brown liquid. A pair of onlookers laughed and pointed at her misfortune. No one moved to help her. "I don't like this place," Ben said, nuzzling close to Becky. "Me neither," she admitted. "Don't worry," Ben said, nodding his head to the right and patting his front pocket. "I have the rock I used to scrape the poop from my boot, ready for action whenever we need." "Do you seriously have a rock with poop on it in your pocket?" Becky asked, practically gagging at the thought. "That's gross," Edison agreed. Ben rolled his eyes. "It's a rock. It's a weapon?" "With lizard poop on it," Becky said. "Poop doesn't bother me if it's attached to a weapon," Ben assured. "Obviously." The people in the square started to follow the knights like a curious procession. Some pushed smaller individuals out of the way or jostled for a better position to see who was being brought before their ruler. Becky approached a wide staircase that led up a handful of steps toward a heavy double door. Cracked wooden veneer covered the barrier along with rusted bolts and latches. 2 servants in green tunics rushed to pull on the cast-iron handles and allow the procession to enter. Hinges squeaked and shot an uncomfortable tingle up Becky's back. The doors opened on a large hall with towering ceilings. The same chaotic slapdash of stones made up the walls and floor, forcing Becky to step carefully to keep from catching her toe on a jagged cobblestone corner. Smoke hung on the air, smelling of burned brown sugar. 6 torches, 3 on each wall, lit the room with a strange bright yellow glow, accompanied with sporadic explosions of purple and blue. A brown table filled the middle, covered in rusted swords, rotten fruit, and a dog-like lizard chewing on the remains of some type of poached bird carcass. The crowd kept pace behind her, filling the back portion of the room. A man with deep purple skin kicked at the lizard and grabbed what remained of the creature's meal. With a famished bite, the man began chewing bird meat loudly. At the end of the hall sat a magnificent raised throne, carved out of shimmering crystal and adorned with gold accents. Of everything Becky had seen since arriving in this glum castle, the throne actually seemed worthy of a king. The man sitting in the chair did not match the regal bearing of his seat, however. The plump, slouching ruler, Monarch-Monarch, Becky assumed, sat on the throne, cheek resting against his fist, like Becky after a particularly dull lesson on spatial dynamics. Deep wrinkles etched his brow, though a copious amount of white makeup covered his azure skin in a vain attempt to hide the signs of age. Purple circles of mascara surrounded his orange eyes, red and gray hair drooping around his face like a depressed frame. He wore no beard and seemed beyond weak in his oversized green robes and tiny silver crown. Tufts of thick white fur billowed along the shoulders and swayed as the pudgy man scratched at his jowl. The only thing that made him look even slightly regal was a large, glowing pink gemstone hanging around his neck on a silver chain. "Edison," she breathed. "The crystal around his neck, you see it?" "Yeah, but I'm more interested in the torches," Edison answered as the knights pushed them closer to the man on the throne. "They're glowing yellow and sparking purple and blue." "Yeah, I can see that. Who cares?" "Standard isotope fuel glows yellow just like that and spouts purple and blue flames as it burns," Edison said. "He's right," Ben interjected. "You can use the purple and blue bursts to blow up—"
"All hail, Monarch-Monarch!"
the lead knight shouted, interrupting Ben's pyrotechnic description.
"All hail, Monarch-Monarch!"
the crowd repeated. Their squeaky shout echoed along the stones and reverberated back at Becky like fingers on chalkboard.
"What do you want, Sebastian?"
Monarch-Monarch asked with a limp wave of his hand.
"I'm about to have my nails painted."
The captain removed his helmet, revealing a shiny blue bald head and surprisingly thoughtful eyes. Excuse me. I caught on a word there.
"We captured a group of trespassers, my handsome, talented, and physically robust paragon of intelligence." "I'm all those things,"
Monarch-Monarch said, eyes half closed, mouth hanging slightly open.
"Continue." "We found them. Continue with my praises."
Monarch-Monarch interrupted.
Bearded
Sebastian stumbled.
"Your hair looks particularly regal today."
The king snorted.
"I know that already. Tell me something new." "Your toes are the strongest toes in the universe. You could crush an armada of our enemies with one of your toes." "They are strong, aren't they?"
Monarch-Monarch said, raising his booted foot.
Kriel to rock. Get in here and take off my boots so I can look at my toes."
"Excuse me," Becky said, stepping past Sebastian and approaching the annoying ruler. "There's been a misunderstanding. Our ship crashed, and all we want to do is get out of here. We think your torches may be using the type of fuel—"
"Who is this annoying creature that is warbling at me?"
Monarch-Monarch asked as a short woman with an incredibly large ball of curly hair on her head rushed over and began pulling his boots from his feet. "I'm Becky Blueshift. This is my brother Ben." "Hi, I'm Ben," he said with a wave, "and our partner Edison Nobel." Several gasps filled the hall. Monarch-Monarch blinked quickly, eyes darting around the room with an annoyed squint.
Nobel! Nobel! Impossible!
The name echoed around the room as several bystanders whispered in shock.
The smiling one!
Someone added. Do you guys know our parents, the Nobels and Blueshifts? Becky asked.
We do,
Sebastian said before looking down at the floor as if embarrassed.
Nitro Nobel is not known here at all.
Monarch-Monarch said with a twisted lip.
We've never heard of him or his team.
Becky's eyebrows pinched together in irritated confusion. I didn't say his name was Nitro, so obviously...
We've never heard of him,
Monarch yelled. His nasally voice echoed around the hall like a chorus of whining children. Was my dad here? Edison asked, coming forward. When was he here?
He wasn't here 20 years ago.
The short woman, Krialtarok, chirped as she yanked Monarch-Monarch's boot from his right foot.
He and his lady and friends didn't help us build a school or anything neither. They did not,
Sebastian agreed, eyes still locked on the floor.
They didn't bring medicine either. I've never heard of them.
Wait, so you're saying the Nobels and the Blueshifts were here 20 years ago? Or they weren't? Becky questioned. You've obviously heard of them.
We've never heard of the great Nobel,
Another knight added.
I don't own a painting of his handsome bald head. I've never dreamed about his muscles.
A woman swooned. This is crazy, Becky said. These people are messed up, Ben agreed. You know who my father is, Edison pressed, staring at Monarch-Monarch.
I've never met him,
The king assured. You're lying, Becky yelled while stomping her foot. Murmuring ceased instantly. The mob seemed to back away as if Becky were about to burst into flames and destroy the castle.
I never lie.
Monarch-Monarch said.
I am the most honest ruler in a galaxy of galaxies. And so handsome,
A knight agreed. You're lying about never meeting Nitro Nobel, Becky said.
No one calls me a liar and lives to breathe another day.
Monarch-Monarch whispered.
I could have you executed right here if I ordered it.
Liars are cowards, Nyla Nobel had told Becky and Edison during sword fighting lessons. And cowards are dangerous because they care about no one but themselves. Always be wary of liars. Fists tight, Becky looked at the dullard king. He may have power, but at this point, she had nothing to lose. Liars are cowards and are usually afraid of a challenge too, she thought to herself. I'm not going to back down. Becky took a step toward the throne. You don't scare me, Your Highness. Do your worst. Hopefully, he wouldn't. And that is the end of episode 10. Tomorrow we will read episode 11, Lies and Other Truths, as we get to know the wonderful Monarch-Monarch a little bit better. I hope you guys are having a great time and having a lot of fun with this. I know I am. I will see you tomorrow. If you want to get a copy of the book for yourself, it is always at stephenhuman.com. You can get it right there on the front page. And you can get a digital copy or a paperback copy, which I prefer, with kids and stuff. Paperbacks are way, way better. So go ahead and pick one up, and I will see you tomorrow for story time.